Welcome to the Rising Society podcast. I'm Shane Kennedy.
This is Nico Galliano, the rejected gentleman.
And I'm pretty sure this is episode 21, but
I think
I'm
it's
not
episode 25.
Sure. Okay, well, we'll have to go back and count it, and we'll label it properly. Mm-hmm. So, it's been a while.
It has been a minute, man. I think it's been like 2 months.
Yeah, yes, it has.
We had a lot of stuff come up individually.
Yeah.
But
all right, so let's start talking about Neuralink.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do it, man. Start us off.
Okay, so for people that don't know, Neuralink is a company, a project that was started or co-founded by Elon Musk back in 2016. And what the goal has been is to bring cyberspace to your mind and bring your mind into cyberspace. Right?
Like when they plug it in the Matrix?
Just like that.
I was trying to give like something that people can think about. It's basically what he's trying to do is it puts the way we ping the internet, right? Basically, it's going to be the same thing to individual humans, correct?
Yeah.
That's fucking wild to think about, dude.
Yeah, so I wrote a couple of things down. So the way Neuralink works is they place a chip. They actually cut a part of your skull out. Mm-hmm. They drill into your skull and they cut a little part of it out. They replace it with a chip, and this chip has 64 hyper thin wires that they plug into a part of your brain. And then it's there forever. It only takes 25 minutes to install it. It only takes 25 minutes for them to cut that part of your skull out, and for a robotic arm to insert that chip onto the outside of your skull, and for those 64 hyper thin wires to tap into your brain. And then from there, your brain is tapped in to the World Wide Web.
Can you just draw information? Like if I was just like, what's the, like, let's say I know about Plato, and I'd be like, who is the philosopher Plato? And it would just like, you don't just get the fucking information inputted into your head.
Yes, yeah, that's essentially how it works. You'd be able to it would download into your mind, and then you would know it.
Well, you know everything.
Yeah.
There's no way this works. No.
So the way that's exactly the way it's going to work. Now the problem is, they're not only the way it's going to work. It's not only going to be about knowing knowledge. It's also going to be about creating experiences. Where there's a large gamer population, for instance, of people. They're always striving to try to further immerse themselves into the game, right? Mm-hmm. They'll invest in better graphics to feel like to visually feel like they're there. They'll invest in higher quality like surround sound and stuff. They'll invest in the controllers that vibrate to make them feel like they're there. And everything is about trying to draw your senses into tricking your senses into making you believe that you're there in the game, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what this is going to do, these little threads are going to connect into your brain, and it's going to download the experience of being a player in the game directly into your mind. And it's going to. You're talking about we're talking about full immersion into a completely fake world. That's where we end up talking about the metaverse, right?
Yeah, but I know where you're going with this. But at the same time, because I'm going to play devil's advocate in this, so we're not just preaching to the choir.
You always do.
Mm-hmm. That's my specialty.
That's why I call you the devil.
Well, Jesus, man. Fuck. All right. So at the same time, couldn't they use these for the benefits as, like, let's say, medical? It could give off all. I imagine since everything's located through the brain. Right, all the pain receptors, signals, everything that goes on. I imagine they could take a lot of information from you medically. Like they could monitor, like kind of like these little things do, and how they hook up, little Fitbits. Couldn't they get like your oxygen level, how many hours you've been sleeping, how active your mind is while you're sleeping, what exactly, you know what I mean? Like all these health things that could really be beneficial to people.
Well, it can also be used people that are paralyzed, for instance. Mm-hmm. It can be used to connect them with new robotic limbs that would give them control over them. Mm-hmm. It could also be used for people. Remember that guy? Remember Stephen Hawking? Mm-hmm. Which Stephen Hawking's dead. But
Okay.
but remember the years leading up to Stephen Hawking's death, he had Lou Gehrig's disease, I think is what he had, where the only thing he could do was he could only communicate by blinking to people, and then eventually he couldn't even blink anymore. So he would just stare at people. For someone in his situation that has something that has a disease that diminishes your motor skills, that makes it so that you can't communicate with the outside world, having Neuralink would allow them to communicate with people, so that when they think a thought, it would be communicated to the outside world instead of them having to blink or possibly just not even communicate with the outside world. So in my mind, that's the best case scenario for Neuralink. And then the worst case scenario is what we saw in the Matrix.
I was about to say, because people innately in modern society are very lazy. So they would act. I mean, I could see people rushing in droves to this to experience things that they might never actually get to experience. So think about it. If you could put yourself in like the jungles of China, like you could experience that's somewhere most people are never going to go to. You know what I mean? Or if you could put yourself on the Himalayan mountains and actually feel the cold, but never be in actually any real danger. You know what I mean? Like you could, dude, that's wild stuff to think about, that you could experience this stuff. I know you're going to go right back to the negative aspects of it, but I'm saying think of the positive aspects of it. There's a lot of experiences that you could do, but they wouldn't be real experiences.
Well, what I would argue to you is that the majority of people in the West, that's already the integral part of how they live their lives. Mm-hmm. They binge watch series on Netflix. They binge play video games. They try to immerse themselves in another reality. Mm-hmm. They try to immerse themselves in somebody else's story instead of living out their own, right? And that's been a very slow and steady development over, really over the 20th century. That became a slow and steady development where what we call entertainment has become much more than just entertainment for
escapism
for a lot of people. Yeah, it's not even escapism. Their escape is going and living their actual life, like going and working their 9-to-5 job or whatever it is, and then the moment they get off, then they go and immerse themselves in whatever alternate reality they're going to immerse themselves in. What I would argue is that Neuralink will provide them. This will be the final nail in the coffin of them living out their own story and living out their own life in the reality that we're meant to exist within. And without getting too technical, I think in the West we've become so obsessed with the idea that knowing is all of the battle. In the West, philosophers, thinkers and everything, they've all become fixated on the philosophy of epistemology, right? And all that an epistemology means, the philosophy of knowing.
Yeah, knowledge.
Yeah.
The philosophy of knowledge, yes.
How do you know knowledge? How do you acquire it, right? And I think in the West, we've become obsessed with this notion that what our brains are for is to map out the reality around us within our brain, right? To kind of internalize reality within our brain. That's the purpose of our mind. If that makes any sense.
I'm following.
What I would argue is that's part of it. I mean, obviously we have an internal map of the exterior reality around us, but our senses are not just there for us to internalize the reality around us. Our senses are also here for us to shape the reality around us, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have your sense and your taste and your smell and everything. You can not only use those things to appreciate the reality around you, but also for you to shape the reality around you with your hands and within you using your body to shape the reality around you, to go out and create something, to build something, to do something. And I think unfortunately for whatever reason, in the West, people have become very conditioned to internalize the reality around them. And I think Neuralink is just the next step down that very odd pathway that's really not living the full human experience that humans are meant to live. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
No, I'm with you 100%, dude. It's kind of like, I think the reason that experiences are so important over like Neuralink, actual physical human contact, right? Like even like high-fiving. Like let's say we had a great podcast, we high-five. You know what I mean? A physical high-five. It's not an illusion. Like I think what makes these interactions is there was a real possibility, we don't know when, but we will do our last podcast. And every podcast is different. You and I, no matter how we can go back and listen to it, and we can go back and watch it like we hope everyone does, right? We hope they go watch our content. They go, we lived it. And it can only be done once. You and I can never redo it. And I think that's what, knowing that there's loss, and I don't mean this in a negative way. Everyone's like, oh, loss, right? Knowing that the time has been spent and I will never be able to relive that exact moment, right? So where when you're doing this virtual reality or a video game or even stuff we love, a movie, I could rewatch a movie. There's some movies I watch once a year, right? I watch them. I love them. It was never, ever as good as the first time I saw it and fell in love. A song. Dude, I listen to some songs like for 2 days straight. It will be the only thing that I'm Bluetoothing as I'm driving. Right?
Then you're done with it.
Right? Or no, even if it comes on like a week later, I'll be like, oh, that's a good song. And I'll sing it for years and years and years. Never again am I going to listen to it for 2 days straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the overtaking of it. It's the same thing in every aspect of our life. And I think that's where virtual reality will always come up short, because I can keep reliving those moments. I can keep doing those things. They do become boring. The human element of not knowing. Some of the best things ever, you're like, I'm not going out tonight. And then you get the text, and it's like, come on, man, we really want you to come out. And then you go out, and it's just that random night where you run into random people with your group of friends, and it's like a memory you guys talk about forever. It can never be relived, though. And virtual reality always can. And I think that's why you won't make the same connections. They won't have the same meaning. Like, you could play a video game, and you love it, and then you can go play it again. It's not like life, though. You're done with that video game. You're never done with your life. You always talk about, oh, I wish I could go back in time. That's the key right there. Oh, I wish I could go back to that night. I might do something different, or I'd love to experience that for the first time again. But you never will be able to. With all this other stuff, you can. And it will never have the same meaning, because we know it's not finite. That's my opinion. Did I just ramble on that?
No, you made a lot of good points.
Okay. I hope I made my point came across.
And I think modern day America really epitomizes this whole notion that the way that you really interact with the world around you is by internalizing it, by consuming it, by soaking it all in. That's what it's all about. And I think that's downstream from this whole idea that everything is an intellectual exercise. That the reason that you go and experience something is merely just so that you can have a memory of it. Mm-hmm. You know, this intangible intellectual exercise. But the fact is, you're not just a mind. You're not just a soul, but you're a soul and you're a body, and the both are interconnected. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons that when we end up going out, at the last minute, and you're enjoying a delicious meal with friends, and you're in the moment where you're not just intellectually absorbing something, you're experiencing it with your full person.
Yes.
And you're experiencing it with other people. there's something electric about that you're never going to get when you're streaming a Netflix series, as good as the Netflix series might be.
Your point exactly. Like sometimes when you and I hang out, and one of us will just come off the quick tongue with something, right? Like a joke. We'll get to the point where we're literally in tears, bent over in pain, that pain feeling that you can't get. And it's so fucking funny, right? We can't breathe. And we'll just laugh and laugh till we can't even talk. It's almost like you're paralyzed for a short period of time. And then like maybe like a week later, it'll be like, dude, remember, you know what I mean? Or 2 months later, and we'll laugh about it again. But it's not that crippling on it, because like you said, it was that wholesome moment of body and soul and just living it. And we might laugh the second time we tell it, or we might tell the story to someone and they'll laugh, but it's never like that connection of actually being there and actually living it. Like you said, it's not the same as watching a movie and laughing at two characters where it's funny because you weren't actually involved.
So I just thought of a parallel here. So compare McDonald's to, you know how a lot of Americans will go and visit Europe and they'll come away and they'll be like, I had an amazing time. And a lot of the time they'll say it was the greatest food I've ever had in my life. If you compare McDonald's, which I think kind of epitomizes American cuisine, McDonald's is more about the marketing. You know, McDonald's is about the imagery and colors that are on the wrapper and on the bag.
Yeah.
It's about the logo of Ronald McDonald, who is a caricature of my people, of the Irish, which I do take offense to that. But
I think it's fair representation.
You see, I don't. But that's a side note.
Red hair, big feet,
but
don't make a lot of sense. They're clowns.
But so McDonald's, it's really not about the food, because if McDonald's were about the food, then they wouldn't have a business, right? But what McDonald's is about, it's about convenience. What McDonald's is about, it's about for the kids the toy. It's about the imagery. It's about the advertising, right? It's about all the marketing. It's about the ideas that they're trying to infuse into the place. They're trying to make you intellectually associate all this food carnival with this food that's really not really very good food.
No, if they were in the food business, they would have been out of business a long time ago. They would have never made it past those 3 stores they had.
Exactly. But the thing is, you look at Americans that go travel to Europe. They'll go to like Italy, France, wherever, and they'll eat food there that's not marketed. It's not advertised. It's not presented to them with some caricature of the place. Like for France, it would probably be a mime. For Italy, it would probably be like a mobster or something like that.
That's racist as shit.
Well, you know what? Then you need to recant what you said about Ronald McDonald. But I guess my point is that the experience, the actual experience of the food there is the thing that matters, right? It's not about some kind of it's not about all of these ideas that have been implanted into people's minds through marketing, like for McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or something like that. These things that are really uniquely American, you know, it's entirely about the food. It's about it's about how the food looks. It's about the colors of the food. If you look at like Italian pastas and stuff, they usually have different colors. You know, like the red sauce, and then it might have some like green capers or something, and it's usually presented in a visually appealing way, and then it tastes appealing. It also smells appealing too, but it's not associated with a marketing campaign that's meant to try to make you think of intellectual concepts while you're eating the food. It's entirely about the experience of the food, right? That's physical. Like you're utilizing your body to taste it and to fully experience it, to immerse yourself in it. With McDonald's, it's like Pavlov's dog. You've been conditioned through marketing to associate like happiness and and clowns and stuff like that with eating at McDonald's. But there hasn't been any conditioning that goes into the food that you will eat in some little Italian village in Europe. It's entirely about the experience, and it's entirely about appreciating the reality and savoring it with your mind and with your body, right?
But what was your point, dude?
My point, if I had to distill it down, what I would say is that
I get what you're saying, but you never wrapped it up. You just talked.
Oh, sorry.
You were just talking about Americans going to Europe compared to here.
So if you think about if you think about McDonald's, it's about it's about savoring the food through the lens of the marketing campaign that's been indoctrinated into your mind.
Oh, so you're not saying America versus Europe. You just picked that because they don't have the marketing. Okay.
Yeah. But when it comes to when it comes to like the European cuisine that really blows Americans' minds, it's all about that one moment in time. It's about looking at the dish. It's about smelling the dish. You know, they even pair the wines with the meal. You know, and in some cases they'll even present you with little foods like potatoes or like a piece of bread or something, just for you to cleanse your palate with before you move on to the next.
Yes.
You know, so the whole thing, it's about being there. It's about being in the moment, and it's about the entirety of yourself being present in that moment. And incarnationally savoring the moment, right?
Yes.
With McDonald's, they're presenting you with food that's, I mean, it's not as bad as pet food, but I would argue I would argue that it's marginally better.
It is food for the pets, though.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, let's be honest.
But the only way that McDonald's and companies like it have a market is by dumping billions of dollars into advertising. And what the advertising is there to do, it's to implant, it's to condition your mind with a particular lens. And then that lens gets tapped into whenever you go to McDonald's or Burger King or wherever it is, or Taco Bell. And that lens is meant to override the reality at the moment, right? So that when you're eating garbage, that conditioning that's been done to you through the advertising, it kicks in and says, no, this is not garbage. This is like a carnival, you know, or like with Taco Bell, it's like, oh, this is the Chihuahua, you know,
never mind. I was going to say, what the fuck happened to that Chihuahua? Keep going. Sorry.
I think there was a lawsuit or something because Taco Bell got accused of being racist, but somehow McDonald's isn't racist. Listen.
Wait, they're racist because they had a Chihuahua?
Well, because the Chihuahua spoke Spanish and it was, I think it had.
It's a Mexican restaurant.
But I think it had to do something with stereotypes.
Chihuahuas are from Mexico.
We'll look it up, and we'll address it in the next podcast. But
okay, yeah.
As I remember years ago, there was some big lawsuit that involved a bunch of people getting together and suing Taco Bell.
I'm
and accusing
sure
them
there
of being
fucking
racist.
was. Yeah,
but again, what I would argue is whatever racist caricature that Taco Bell Chihuahua dog that said "Yo quiero Taco Bell," whatever racism was embedded in that, there's a lot more racism embedded in the whole Ronald McDonald thing.
I don't think so.
Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree.
Ronald McDonald, that's an Irish name.
Okay, and
he has red hair.
And Olive Garden's 100% authentic, and I guess we can go ahead and move on from this.
No, we're not talking about the food being authentic. We're talking about the caricature of the person. Olive Garden doesn't have a persona that they have out there.
When you're there, your family, and it's supposed to be like Italian barbecue or whatever. So
dude, it is the Italian McDonald's. Okay.
What Olive Garden is?
Yes.
Not Fazoli's?
Fazoli's is bad. Fazoli's is bad.
Wouldn't you equate Fazoli's more to being an Italian taco or an Italian McDonald's?
Yeah, but there's not a lot of Fazoli's out there. There's a shit ton of Olive Gardens.
Listen, there's a Fazoli's that's like a 20-minute drive from here.
So what, dude? I can't fucking walk down my road without tripping over 3 Olive Gardens. And girls love Olive Garden. Olive Garden blows.
They love it because of all the pasta.
Dude, it sucks. Olive Garden's horrible. Anyways, we got off track.
Okay.
That was my bad, yeah.
So, any last thoughts on Neuralink? So, let me just say this. I think that when you're talking about McDonald's, you have subpar food, and it's all about the marketing that's implanted notions into your head. The conditioning kicks in whenever you're participating in eating McDonald's, right? But and what I would argue is that Neuralink is just a further step from that. What it's about is getting you. It's about breaking you away from reality, from experiencing the world using your mind and using your body. It's about only experiencing a reality, not the reality with your mind, and that's a very, very very dangerous way of existing. I think that's one of the reasons that so many people are depressed, is because God made you to interact with reality with your mind and with your body.
I actually concur with you on this one. I do think that's what leads to so much massive depression in society is people trying to escape reality through these venues, whether it be, and everyone's guilty of sitting down and binging a show, right?
Yeah.
But you're trying to live in these realities. There's a lot of things.
Well, and that's why I would say we call it entertainment, but I think it's in a lot of cases, going and binging shows and playing video games, binging on playing video games, for a lot of people, unfortunately, it's gone beyond entertainment.
It has.
And I think Neuralink is the next. Unfortunately, I think Neuralink is the next logical step.
So let's make a thing right here, right now, so people at least know where we stand. Let's get into us being in that real world. That's a no, and you're not getting it, I take it.
Hell no.
Hell no. I will also not be getting it whatsoever. Do you think eventually, let's just try to jump to the future, do you think it's something eventually where it becomes a necessity to have it? For instance, I know we can always make exceptions, but we're talking mainstream here. Well, it is pretty hard to get around in 2023 if you do, and you can ask any old person, they're almost like fucking can't live. If you do not have an email address, a cell phone, and a credit card.
Yeah.
It is pretty hard to get around if you don't have those 3 things. Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
If you don't have an email address, a cell phone, and a credit card or a debit card, you know what I mean, just a card to actually do, it would be very hard to get around in the modern world. Online purchases become impossible. You're not purchasing anything online. Calling people, communicating with people becomes impossible. And even getting information for certain people, you can't even sign up for most things without email now. Do you think, let's say in 200 years, 100 years, 150 years, 75 years, doesn't matter. Do you think eventually that this Neuralink is going to be the only way that you can tap into certain things?
I think we'll probably end up seeing a split in society at some point, whether it's in our lifetimes or beyond, where we'll end up seeing people that exist entirely within the confines of what we can call the metaverse, right? Like, which is the whole idea that really Mark Zuckerberg has kind of run with to create an entirely a believable reality online. I think we'll probably end up seeing a class of people that exist entirely within that realm, where their bodies probably end up getting bug juice and bug protein pumped intravenously.
We'll call them
into
the
their body.
They're the Digis, yeah.
The Digis, and then you'll have everybody else.
The reals.
Yeah.
because we kept it real.
Yeah, the digis and the reals, and the question in my mind is, well, actually, it'll probably be a lot like Time Machine.
Great fucking movie.
With the Morlocks and the Eloys.
Pause right there. Just snippet note, because I know the majority of people out there have not seen that movie, which is Orwell. No. H.G. Wells? Who did Time Machine?
I think it was H.G. Wells.
It wasn't, though. It doesn't matter. This is based off the book, but the movie did not score well, and it is phenomenal. That's like the 2001 movie or whatever. Maybe 1999?
2002.
2002. Time Machine. Phenomenal movie. Probably in my top 25 movies of all time.
H.G. Wells.
It was.
Read it. Yeah.
Thanks. Continue. Great movie. Watch it.
Well, so in the story, I mean, obviously it's a fascinating story, but when he goes way into the future, there are really two groups of people, right? There are the Eloys who live on the Earth's surface, and they have little withered hands because they don't do any work, and they just kind of live a very, very blessed and very gifted existence. They just kind of play around in the fields and stuff like that on the surface of the earth. It's almost like a picture of Eden, but they disappear every so often, right? And then below the earth live the Morlocks.
You remember their names? I forgot their names.
I couldn't tell you.
No, the two groups of people. I didn't remember that was even the...
Yeah, the Eloys and the Morlocks.
I forgot. I remembered the Morlocks, but I forgot the Eloys.
Yeah. And the Morlocks do a bunch of work underneath the earth, but what the Morlocks do is they eat the Eloy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think, I don't think it would be a direct parallel, but I think you would end up with one group of people who are living in the metaverse, who are not engaging in reality, not really doing anything. They're just like their brains might just be used for processing or something. And then you'll end up with the other group who exist in reality, who interact with the world around them using their full human person, mind and body. And you'll end up basically with two different economies. You'll have two totally different, really two different worlds existing on this planet, if everything is allowed to play out. Now, I do think that you could end up having people that are forced into the metaverse without their consent.
What do you mean?
It only takes 25 minutes to install that chip in the back of people's heads. What if they developed a way when people are sleeping, for instance, to just like sneak in and covertly slip that chip onto the back of their head?
While they're sleeping, they're going to open their fucking skulls.
Well, it could be.
Take the skull cap off.
Well, actually, what they could sedate them while they're sleeping. They could sedate them, and they could install that chip in the back of their head. Then immediately, now, what about this? Now, immediately, what they could do upon placing that chip in the back of their head, they could download like 300 years worth of false memories into their brain. And then they wouldn't even realize the existence that they lived before.
Dude, so wait, the black fans rolling down the road, and they're like, this week we gridded out 7th through 10th Street, and we're going to sneak into all these houses, 25 minutes apiece, drilling fucking things in people's heads. And then the next day they're going to go to the next part of the grid.
What if it could drop down to like 17 minutes a piece as things
I don't give a fuck if it was 4 minutes, all right? The people on fucking 7th, 8th, and 10th Street... 9th, 10th Street, the next block is going to be like the next day when they're interacting. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? They would have to do this on a massive scale all at once. They can't covertly go neighborhood to neighborhood. What are you talking about?
Well, they could sedate them. Like instead of just jumping right in to install the chip, they could inject them with
Shane,
with something that knocks them out for a couple hours.
If you didn't do it with everyone all at once. Right? Let's say they did it to 10% of Lakeland. the other 90% of Lakeland that didn't get sedated in the middle of the night and brain fucked, the next day would be like, what are you guys talking about?
What if what did we call them? There were the Digis and the
The Digis and the Reels.
Okay, so let's say that the Reels were told, yeah, this person decided that they were going to become a Digi.
Please name this podcast The Digis and the Reels.
Okay,
thank you. All right.
So what if the Reels were told, oh, this person who used to be a Reel, they decided that they wanted to become a Digi, and they did, and you know, they could present forged documents and saying, look, this person, they signed off. They gave their consent. This is what they wanted to do.
What are you talking about? How are they doing that? When we going, they can't do it while we're sleeping, dude.
I guess what my point is that.
Oh, you're saying that after there's already been an established Digi and Reel population, they're going in and abducting Reels and making them Digis.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that this is how they're going to implement it in.
Well, and the thing is, they could even, you know. Well, I like I said before, let's say you have somebody who's like 30 years old. Mm-hmm. They could download 500 years worth of fake memories into that person's brain.
They could.
And that person could think that they've lived for 500 years when they've only physically existed for 30 years, and they could end up being very, very confused. And they could think that being a Digi is what they've always wanted, and then in whatever way Reels and Digis have to interface with one another, whether it's through screens or whether it's through smartphones or maybe it's through whatever form social media takes at that time, that person is communicating that person who used to be a Reel, who's now a Digi, they're communicating and like tweeting and saying this is what I always wanted. I'm a Digi now because I wanted to be a Digi. But that's all based upon a false
narrative.
Yeah, a false premise that they have because to them the 30 years of real existence
is gone.
That they had, well, it's still there, but to them that's like a dream.
Got erased.
But then but then they've had these 500 years worth of fake memories downloaded into their mind.
Dude, think about it. You could actually go in, because after the Reels sell out, because I guess they were never Reels, but they were, you know what I mean? After the Reels sell out, a good part of the population is going to willingly want to become Digis. So once you have your Digi and Reels, Reels that they're like, I'm Reels, I'm Digis, I don't want that, I don't want that. And now you got two sides. Let's say they do go into the Digis even. They're not even fucking with the Reels, like actually abducting them and doing stuff. They're just messing with the Digis. They could go into the Digis, program 500 years of history, not that they lived, but of false history that never happened, and make them think those Reels have done us so wrong for the last 500 years.
Yeah.
Look, remember 20 years ago when the Reels went in and they bombed a center where a bunch of Digis were stored? Mm-hmm. And that never actually happened. Yeah. Think about it. They can make false conflicts and blood feuds, a history of blood feuds that never happened.
Yeah.
They could make victims seem like villains or villains seem like victims. They could do whatever they want because they could just plant it in there.
Yeah.
Very dangerous stuff. That's like some sci-fi shit, huh?
But at the end of the day, I think the people that are the future Digis are the ones who spend the majority of their time living in an alternate reality, whether it's through like binge gaming and they're trying to make that they're trying to make that their life and their reality, or it's through just like binge streaming and that's all they do because they're trying to escape their life. I guess
I love watching TV shows.
Right, but the thing is, you live your life.
I do live my life,
and I guess what I'm pointing out is the real tragedy here is we have a lot of people that are living lives. Their real life they view as not being worth anything, and their real life they view as being unimportant and as being insignificant. So what they're doing is they're trying to live in an alternate reality that they believe is more significant and more important and more interesting. And then that's usually a very, very quick road to getting depressed. Because the problem is you are not just your mind, you are your mind and body. You are a soul and body, right? And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we face in the West is we want to try to make everything about the mind. We want to try to make everything about the intellect, but that all has to be in resonance with the body.
100%. I can't agree more. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Well, so I guess my question would be,
Yeah, hit me with it. What is it?
how would it be profitable to have a class of people that are just existing in a metaverse full time? How is it profitable for a company or for a government to keep those people alive?
Well, dude, there could be a lot of things. What are you talking about? They pay people right now to get data off of people. We put people through all kinds of what do you call it? Like surveys. Those surveys that you do that are like weeks at a time or months at a time, and like answer these 7,000 questions. And they pay people to do this, where they could actually go in and watch people live in these things, get research from it, data from it. They could get medical research from it. They could get, there's all kinds of things that they can do.
Their brain? On how they're mentally interacting in the metaverse? Like of what I guess my point is, of what use are they for like, let's say it's Facebook, who's able, Mark Zuckerberg's company. Let's say they're the ones that build out the metaverse. They partner with companies like Neuralink to get people hooked into it, where people can build their own false realities and they can go and exist within other false realities and stuff. I guess my question is, at what point is it profitable or beneficial for a company like the metaverse to keep those people alive? If those people are just physically laying in a chair all the time, and they never get out of the metaverse, and they're just participating within the metaverse, how is their body being kept alive, or is it? And B, why is it even beneficial to keep the metaverse going? If everybody that exists in there, it's just like it's like a giant. It's like the Matrix. It's like, So remember in the Matrix. Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen the Matrix,
fucking 20 years. So who's spoiling?
Yes,
yes. Came out 20 years ago.
Spoiler alert! There's Agent Smith and Neo and everything. Remember how the purpose behind keeping the human bodies alive
was the electricity?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was they basically utilized humans as being batteries?
Yeah.
Right. And then the dead humans were turned into that liquid, and then that's what all the humans that were in the Matrix, that's what their bodies were sustained on. Right. So I guess if people were plugged in full time to the metaverse, how are their bodies sustained? How do their bodies not starve to death?
Bug juice. Okay,
bug juice. That's very fair. And B, how is it profitable? What is the metaverse gaining out of keeping those people alive, their bodies alive? What incentive do they have to keep those people's bodies alive? What are they gaining?
What if it was, all right, so you go into the metaverse? Dude, what if the metaverse was just like, you keep on there, maybe like harvesting. Maybe they keep them alive, barely, and they're like, we get to a point in science where like every so often they just withdraw blood until it's replenished. You know what I mean? So we have healthy blood. Maybe they take out your certain organs that you don't necessarily need to be alive. You know what I mean? And they harvest that for the reals that need that stuff to elongate. Maybe they use you for stem cells and they just keep rebuilding them like it's a payoff. They use you for medical stuff. Because it wouldn't cost a lot to keep you alive. Because you would just wither up into like a little shriveled grape guy, and they could just keep you alive on the minimum calories, the minimum water. You know what I mean? Just sit you in that chair, and then every time you replenish to a healthy level, they just take what they need until you replenish again.
Well, I guess what would their incentive be not to thin the flock though of people whose bodies are plugged into the to the metaverse? Like let's say that the population of bodies that they need to be able to harvest organs and all that kind of stuff, let's say the population that they need is like 1 billion. And let's say that there are like 3 billion plugged into the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
What incentive do they have to maintain the additional 2 billion bodies that they don't need? So would they just wipe them out?
Yeah, because you could always make more Digis.
Well, and have you ever heard that the idea that there would be NPCs in the metaverse?
Why?
Well,
can't you just imprint? Like, I'm sure they can get a point where they could just put our brain into the fucking verse instead of having NPCs. Just have real people and then just kill the bodies. Well,
so theoretically, if you were able to download somebody's soul into the metaverse, which I think that's an occult connection to the metaverse. I don't think that's going to be possible to download someone's soul.
You don't think they could keep brains alive and then just put it in there? Because it's lacking the soul, right? And
right.
We just said they're one and the other. That I went the roundabout way to try to set this up for you to volleyball it. Yeah.
But so the thing is, though, I think that NPCs could be utilized in the metaverse, at least to persuade people of different things. Especially when you're in the time period where you may have people that enter the metaverse that may not spend their time full time there.
I was about to say, at first, I don't think people are going to spend all their time.
Right.
I think they're going to want to pay to get back in. You know what I mean?
But now this is the crazy thing, though. In many cases, they may never know if they're dealing with an actual other human being in the metaverse or if they're dealing with an NPC. An NPC is a non-playable character for anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about. Like anybody that's ever played a video game, if you go walk it like in the video game, let's say that you walk into to like a medieval inn or something, and in the corner of the inn and like lurking in the shadow, there's some guy wearing a hood. And you go up to him and he'll always say the same thing to you.
Did you just pick Lord of the Rings scene and just fucking roll with it?
That's such a massive video game genre, and you go into the corner and the only thing that the guy will ever say to you is I have a mission for you. My wife and son were kidnapped by an evil wizard. And I'm willing to pay 12 gold to anyone that is able to go and retrieve them, and then along the narrative of the video game, you have to accept the mission. There is no way for you not to accept the mission, and then once you accept the mission, then every time that you go up to him, he wishes you luck on your journey to retrieve his wife and son. So a non-playable character is like a pre-programmed character that's fake. That's not an actual player. It's just a pre-programmed character that just says the same thing to you over and over and over again.
And loop.
Yeah, and so the thing is, we have artificial intelligence and everything now. So what would stop an NPC from not appearing to be an NPC? Like, for all you know, you could go into the metaverse and you could step into a store in the metaverse or into a bar or a club in the metaverse, and everybody in that bar or club, they're all non-playable characters. And
you're the only one that doesn't know it.
And any dialogue, any interaction that you have with them is all fake, and it's all geared based upon algorithms and studying your data, studying your behavior. It's all geared at getting you to to decide to permanently plug into the metaverse, or it's all geared and designed
you said,
at
what
getting
would be
you.
the advantage of having your ass in there?
Well, it might be that the longer you're in there, the more head knowledge you have of things, or another thing might be.
No, not to the individual. Why would they want you in there?
So that you consume less resources on the planet.
Oh, you're thinking this is how they're going to euthanize people.
Well, not just that, but think about it. So that you consume less resources. If you're doing all of your living in the metaverse, think of what your carbon footprint would be. It would plummet to almost nothing.
Why can't they just kill you then?
Well, I think that's probably where it would end up going. You know, remember how earlier I mentioned, let's say that they only needed like 1 billion bodies preserved of the people of the Digis that are in the metaverse. And let's say that there were 3 billion of them. I asked you, what do you think they would do? And you said, oh, they'd probably very well just slaughter the 2 billion bodies that they don't need.
I've seen governments do it.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Governments, and it's not just governments. It's people that have that have large amounts of power concentrated into their hands. They tend not to do very good things with it. You know,
Fact.
if you pour, or if you coagulate a bunch of power into someone's hands, they're usually not going to act like Mother Teresa.
Because with great power,
Usually.
With great power
Comes great responsibility.
Wow, dude, that was really delayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like 5 hours later. Jesus.
Uncle Ben said that in Spider-Man
He's dead.
because of Peter Parker. Basically, Peter Parker murdered Uncle Ben.
First degree murder.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty blatant, dude.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's a lot to think about. That's wild. It's kind of like intriguing, scary stuff.
But you see, that's the reason I think that the World Economic Forum is pushing all this metaverse bullshit. I think that's the reason they're pushing all this bug protein. That's the reason they're pushing all these limitations on your carbon emissions when they're flying around the world on their private jets and everything. I think it's because they don't like the idea of there being so many of us on the planet and so few of them. And they realize the only way that they can ensure their safety, and they can also ensure the only way they can ensure their safety and their ability to maintain their grip on power is if they sedate the rest of us.
Keep us...
At least at the very beginning, and then they can start eliminating the rest of us.
That's the theory behind why they're demasculating males.
Yeah.
It's to keep them complacent.
Yeah.
Because demasculated males aren't going to lead revolts.
Right.
They're not going to overthrow governments.
And I can tell you this, males that are obsessed with just playing video games and that are just watching a bunch of Netflix, but that are just binge watching Netflix all day long, all day, every day, like from the moment they get home from work, if they work, till the moment they go to sleep, and then it's rinse and repeat the next day, they're never going to contend to make the world around them better.
Never.
You know, and what that means is that the people at the top that wield the power, they're never going to have to fight those people at the local level. They're never going to have to fight against an uprising of people at the local level vying for control over their lives. Mm-hmm. You know, the people at the top, they're going to be able to gain more control and influence over your life, and they'll be able to hold it because the rest of us are going to be paralyzed. And I think that's one of the reasons it's very important that your average person starts thinking about this kind of thing. That starts not only thinking about Neuralink, but also starts thinking about what type of a life am I leading? Am I leading something am I leading a life that's worth living? Am I leading a life that I'm happy with? And if the answer is no, then the solution is not to go and escape to video games. The solution is not to go and escape to just binge watching streaming services. The solution is to go out and build a life that's worth living, to go out and find something you can do and go and do it.
To become a badass.
Yeah. Exactly.
Am I a badass or am I a sad ass?
That's it.
That's it. I mean, that's all it is. Like, do I look forward to the possibilities of what I can do with my life? Or are you just like, oh, it's already too late. I'm a fucking loser. You convince yourself why you can't do all these things. And I know it sounds harsh, but that's what people do. Like, oh, man, I can't go work out. Oh, man, I can't start that business. Oh, man, I can't do this because of health complication. It doesn't matter what the fuck it is. If people just start giving up. And in the metaverse, the reason they'll sell it is because you don't have to give up on those things. You can go achieve them like that.
Yeah.
You might even physically look different or perceive to physically look different. Like you said, oh, you could be, 6'3", huge cock and lots of money in the metaverse. And in the real world, maybe, you don't have any of those things. But you can change how you perceive life. You can change how you adapt to those things. You should wake up every day and look forward to, how do I conquer today? How do I conquer the world?
Well, and you see, the thing is, I think the metaverse, I think when you get down to the core of it, I think it's satanic. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that the incarnation of Christ, it brought dignity to every aspect of human life. It brought dignity to everything. And you think about it, the Europeans were savages. I mean, absolute savages. Mm-hmm. Especially now, we mentioned we mentioned the whole Ronald McDonald thing earlier. I can tell you this: prior to the Gospels being proclaimed in Ireland, mm-hmm. the Irish that you would find, they did not walk and talk and look like Ronald McDonald. A lot of them were headhunting savages.
Until the Romans came and gave you guys Christ.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
That was the main benefit.
The Italians gave you guys Christ, and you became a good people.
And you know what? Them proclaiming the gospel to the Irish, that's the only good thing that they ever did for anybody. Mm-hmm. Now the it was the Gospels, the incarnation of Christ, that allowed the Europeans to really live the good life. Mm-hmm. And it was the fact that it was there, that the Europeans were there marinating in the Gospels for as long as they have, that they're able to live a lifestyle and that they're able to have the culture and everything that we in America look over at them, and in spite of all of their failings over in Europe, which there are a lot of them, they still have a really, really high quality of life. Mm-hmm. Because Christianity has allowed them to really properly interact with reality within reality. Mm-hmm. And now in the West, we're pulling back from that, and we're rebelling against it. And I think the whole metaverse thing, I think it's satanic, and it's geared at trying to get humans to not exist incarnationally in reality, but trying to get them to go and live in their heads inside of some metaverse. It's a rebellion against all of reality, right?
Yes.
It's one big rebellion. And what we have to do is condemn it.
Because we're reals.
Exactly.
And we keep it real.
Yep.
We're not digis.
All right, well, I think that's a good note to end on.
I think it's a lot to think about, and yeah. I think we should, when we post this on Rising Society, the Facebook page, let's pose that question about digis and reals. And let's be like, would you guys willingly go into the metaverse? Like, would you get the metaverse little chip, or would you not? I'm interested to see how many people actually pull one way or the other.
What if 100% of people
are digis
say I want to plug in the first chance I get?
I'm a digi ass bitch. Yeah. I'm going Dude, you know what's funny is we laugh. I think
I'm a DAB.
I'm a dab. I'm a dab. Dude,
digi ass bitch.
That should be our first merch we get when this actually takes off. Just a digi ass bitch, dude.
Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of those walking around.
Dude, I was about to say, we laugh and we jest about it, but I think it would be closer to 50% than we think. I don't think people like themselves. I think people are sad. depressed. I don't think people are happy, and I think that a lot of people have quit.
Well, and just look at the. I mean, if nothing else, look at the architecture. Like,
Hey, fuck. What?
Okay,
so what are you talking about?
sorry.
The fuck are you talking about?
Okay. Go. Okay, here.
We're talking about people
No.
offing themselves, and you were like, dude, just look at these buildings.
No, Nico, just listen to me. So, go and look at, like a city, like a city that was built in like prior to 1900.
Okay.
Or go and look at an average European city that was built before 1900. You can go look at an average American city that was built before 1900. When you look at the architecture, a lot of it's appealing to the eye. You know, the buildings are designed to look nice. They're designed to be a very foreign concept to us today. These buildings are designed to be beautiful. You know, there was extra expense that went into these buildings to create murals on the ceiling, to create beautiful, very elaborate mosaics and columns and everything, to make things that would be appealing to people, because the whole idea was that beauty will draw people closer into a relationship with reality itself, right? I don't know what kind of buildings and stuff you're seeing on the side of the road today, but they look like shit. They're these drab just rectangles. And they're ugly. And basically every building today, it looks like a giant box that's been painted that has a sign on it. And these things, they're ugly. There's nothing human about them. Absolutely nothing human about them at all. Yeah. When you look at a Walmart, okay? If you go stand outside of a Walmart and you just look at it, it doesn't resonate with your humanity. It doesn't resonate with anything that's alive. It looks like it's just a giant ugly ass box. That's all that it might as well be a big ass shipping container that has an entrance cut into the side of it and that has the Walmart logo painted onto the top of it. If you go look at like train stations that were built in the early 19th or in the early 20th or late 19th century, early 20th century, you can go look up Penn Station in New York City. That was one of the most beautiful buildings ever built in America. And it was a train station. Go look at an average train station that gets built today, like an average Amtrak station or something. It looks like a bunch of pieces of aluminum that all got nailed together.
I love how this is your hill. This is where you're like, I'm dying on this hill, dude. What I was going to
this is what my point is that these assholes that are at the top end of the totem pole, I think they're trying to make this existence unbearable for people. I think they're trying to sap every little kernel of beauty. I think they're trying to sap every little kernel of happiness out of reality to try to push us into their ugly little metaverse.
It is true, because we are kind of like, if you think about it,
look at the news, all this bullshit in Israel and Palestine. I'm not even going to get into that because it'll probably get us banned. Well, no, I mean, it wouldn't get. Well, maybe it would, but then all this crap in the Ukraine, that would probably get us banned too. It's just, the thing is, you look at the headlines. There aren't really any very happy headlines that the news report anymore. It's almost like they're trying to make it's like they're trying to make the whole existence miserable for people, and they're trying to sap any little bit of joy and beauty out of it. Mm-hmm. So that the path of least resistance is to drink your bug juice and take the 25 minutes to get that chip put in your head so that you go and live in Mark Zuckerberg's hell.
Dude, I love how passionate you are about this one. That's wild. No, I agree with you. I do think that's a lot. Let's throw up As soon as this is up, let's go to Facebook, throw up the poll on Instagram and Facebook, because I am interested to see. I think it's closer to 50-50 than we think, and I do think it has a lot to do with how we have become like ants in the little ant farm. Remember the ant farms you used to buy as a kid?
Yep.
And how it's just so bland, and there's all these tunnels, but the ants don't really, they're just fucking running around with sand. They don't even know that they're living in your little world. So we're just like little ants. And I agree with you. Everything's becoming uglier and uglier and convenient and fast, and no one has time, but all we have is time because you're just wasted doing bullshit. No, I'm with you, man.
What I say is repudiate Neuralink, repudiate the metaverse, because when you do those things, you're repudiating Satan.
No, I agree, man. 100% with you.
All right.
There's reals and there's digis, and we keep it real because we're not digi ass bitches.
Yep. Dabs.
Dabs. Nice.
All right, let's do it.
Love you guys. See you soon.